It's great to see everybody.
Hey, it happens. You know what I mean? It happens. All right. Okay, well, we're just started. I'm just putting this in the last few. Okay, so if you have not received the workbook, if you haven't received that stuff, by all means, just send me a message, and I'll make sure you directly get that, and we'll be able to get that all knocked out and have everything laid
Okay.
out.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Also, my daughter and granddaughter pointed out that I had fumble fingers and I misspelled my own name. My name is Sonia with an N, not an M.
Oh, well, that happens to the best of us, so no problem at all. So we'll just, I don't think I can autocorrect that from here.
Okay,
Wait,
I'll
maybe I
have to
can.
figure it out.
Oh no, watch this.
All right, I have special needs too. How do I put my AirPods on again? I'll
Okay,
try
so
to
you
remember for
put
next
them
time.
in and then go right to your audio. And then when you
Yep,
go to the audio, the little thing, it'll say AirPods.
didn't pop up.
See it in the corner?
No, I don't.
Should be a little that little arrow pointing up should give you an option to jump on there.
Hey.
Sonia's name is spelled. We're ready to rock and roll then. Okay, we're gonna jump into this tonight, and I always love to start off with the reflection of the week before, and so bring up the ideas of what did we learn? What did we learn from the previous? We build off of that. This whole course is accumulative. It's built off of continually putting one thing on top of another, and then by the end we get done the 6-week module or the 6 modules, and then it all comes together. And so turn it over to you all and ask what were the takeaways last week? And it could be just in the reflections of what you did through the journal or through the workbook, or what you took away from the actual the time we met. What was it, on Tuesday of last week? Any big takeaways? Again,
I think I was, about the 3 C's that you talked about, that, I even put that on a little blackboard that I have in my kitchen.
yeah, I love it. What did you that was kind of your almost like a motto in a sense, or some way to make some markers so that you could follow them?
I think just as an inspiration.
I like that. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you.
So I just want to say that Jen and I live in the same area, so we had a little bit of discussion about meeting with all of you guys, and we really loved everybody's sharing and the openness that everybody had to bring to the group. And I just think that it's a really solid group of people, and we like being, well, I'll speak for myself. I like being with like-minded people that are ready to make progression in their life. And from the workbook that you've subscribed, I've kind of went through that, and like what we talked about last week, but also diving into like people that we admire or look up to or have as role models. Like I was able to share that with my husband and with my clients and like people in my regular life. And that's been really a good introspective of like, why do you look up to certain people and why maybe you don't, or like you find it hard to find good role models.
Right.
So that was a good takeaway for me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's awesome. And you're talking about the value exercise where you go through and then you start associating those values with it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback on Tanya. Like, her and I talked. I mean, we talk all the time, but like we were specifically talking about like, oh my gosh, like tonight was really awesome. This was last week. Like, I just was so blown away by like how many different people are doing this. And I don't know, maybe in my mind, I was just like assuming like we all live in the same town. I don't know. That was like really selfish of me to think that, but like, I don't know, my mind just kind of went there. And then I was like, wow, I just love, like Tanya and I talked to like this weekend about like finding out like you know somebody and they know somebody, and then like you don't really know that until you like some other experience brings you together. And so like I feel like this kind of did that last week. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love that. And this is all part of it too, because you know, the goal for this course is to not only give you skills, but to create a community. You know, you brought in your team, you brought in your community, you know, the idea of meeting people from all over the place. And then you see their different paths, and you see their different goals, and you see their different beliefs, and you get in the same room and share that. There's power in that story and that diversity of the group of people that you're around. So yeah, appreciate you sharing that. That is that's a really, really important thing. And hopefully they're lasting. You know, after these 6 weeks, we share emails, we'll share phone numbers, we'll do all that to hopefully be able to continually keep conversations going. Anybody else want to throw anything out there?
I'll throw one out there, and I think
I
this is like the
learned
perfect
that-
example of. Oh, I'm talking over. Sorry, Jim. I'll be
Dan and
quick.
Jim are always
Uh,
going. You two are
yeah.
always on the same one.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. Good company.
Yeah.
No, I very much. I think the gratefulness when you wake up, and the gratefulness before bed, like actually taking a moment to do that, incredibly helpful. Also harder to do than you think because you forget to do it.
Right.
But I think like it was such a clear, you know, you have to build habits, you have to practice doing it. But I thought where I, prior to this being a forced habit, I think I would decide to be grateful kind of at the end of a series of other negative thoughts. And then it's like, hold on, wait, let's, you know, kind of fix this. But if you don't really necessarily have the negative thoughts if you start with the grateful thing. So I think that was, you know, kind of a good lesson of like, just if you open your day grateful, you go to bed grateful, you'll just kind of miss some of those other negative thoughts, and it's almost, you know, just a bit more efficient.
Yeah, it's such a great point. I just did a little post on LinkedIn, but the whole idea is that all research shows that we have between 50 and 60,000 thoughts every single day. So if you think of that, 50 to 60,000 thoughts that are going through our brains in a 24-hour period. And what they show is that 90% of those thoughts are the same thought that just get repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated. They just keep getting washed. And so what happens is that if a negative thought gets in there, all it does is just keep getting recycled. And the more times, you all know this, the more times you do anything, you get really good at it. And so if you're continually recycling negative thoughts, you start seeing the canvas that's in front of us with a more negative tone. So even though we can't control 50 to 60,000 thoughts, it's impossible. What we can do is control the two. And the ones Dan just said, waking up, being intentional with how we're going to see the day, how we're going to start the day. And then also before we're going to bed, being able to use that to be able to kind of put us to sleep. And if you could control those two, to Dan's point, it really does counteract so many of the other ones that are going throughout the day. You know, and that's really going to be a really special part of what tonight is all about, is this idea of what our routines are. I do want to touch on one thing that's really important, and a couple of you were talking about it, the value exercise. Have you all gone through and kind of dug into some of the values, kind of gone through and labeled maybe 1 to 3 different value areas?
I have.
I was wondering, would anybody be willing to share 1 or 2, maybe all their values, whatever it is, but does anybody want to share any of them? Go ahead, Mom, you were the one, you said you did that.
Well, I actually printed them out, Tom. I printed that out. Unfortunately, right now at this moment, because like I said, I just got home from work and all my paperwork is upstairs. I can go up and get it because, but
No, don't worry about that. How about you just give us 1 of your values?
to always stay more positive.
Okay.
Your positive thinking keeps you, you know, if you plant negative thoughts in your head, it's just so hard to get away from them. But if you just keep looking at that glass full and not just half full, like you said, keep it full, you stay more positive
Thank
and
you.
happy in life.
There you go. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody got anything else on there? Any values?
Um, Tom, can you hear me? This is Peg. I can't even see myself on the screen. I'm superimposed on someone else.
Peg, I don't know if you're aware of this. We could see you, and
Yes,
it looks like you're in
But
space.
I know.
I-
I do Zoom a lot for my prior work and stuff, and so I'm sorry about that background. I'm
Not at
in
all.
Lake Havasu, Arizona, but I'm superimposed on somebody else. But I wanted to say that my biggest value is trust and integrity and loyalty. Those are at my age, they mean more to me than anything else.
Can you elaborate a little bit more? How did you come to that?
Well, I've had very various careers, mostly military and paramilitary and nursing. And at my age now, I have realized that those were the values that kept me steady.
Wow.
When I was not always, I have been at the pit a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I don't need to share a whole lot other than the fact that to say that, the VA and I are very good friends. Okay.
Yeah.
We're very good friends. And the other thing I wanted to say is that last week, one thing from last week that changed after listening to everybody else. And I said, oh yeah, I want to learn how to fly a plane because I used to jump out of planes. And then I finally realized, no, that's a very selfish thing for me. I decided I want to do something with horses and hands-on horses and painted horses and the different horse therapy groups, because as a nurse, social worker, and all the other things I've had in my life, horses, I want to do that is my last hurrah.
Very noble. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Peg.
Okay. I'm glad you could see me because I couldn't see myself.
No, it's great. The whole group saw you there. So, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else on values? Throwing it out there? Going once? Going twice? Oh, I see
I
Laura.
can share. Oh, someone
Oh,
else?
and, yeah, we got both, Carly and Laura.
Oh.
Carly, you're unmuted, so you could go first.
Okay. This was something that I took away from Indiana actually, but I think it was the first thing that I truly came to value at myself. Like it was something that I came to realize all on my own, which was vulnerability, especially from a leadership position. I think being an impressionable freshman at the time, it was hard to kind of come to myself when a lot of people were closed off. And then as I got older, I realized it only takes one person to open up. And then once one person does it, it's kind of like a domino effect and gives everyone the space to be themselves. And I think with that comes strength and leadership. And yeah, so it's something that I carry with me to this day.
Yeah, that's beautiful. The vulnerability piece is so incredibly powerful. It's such a hard thing to be, but the second you do it, it's like, oh my God, Carly's vulnerable. I want to be vulnerable too. And and it builds such connection with so many people. And so, man, that's an incredible value to have and something to continually be leaning on. It's one for me that's, it's really important too, because it's like my whole entire journey. It was being vulnerable was how you bridge more of those gaps of connection. And when you do that, there's a huge plus to having strength in numbers. So thanks for sharing. Laura, how about yourself?
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
Okay. So one of my core values, I don't know if you remember, Tom, but I did a deep dive into values years ago, and I was struggling with you one day. We were working out and I was like, but what are the core? What are the things, that we go back to? And so in this, I wanted to share that values becomes a whole practice, or it has for me and possibly could for everyone. Because they change, and we kind of, as we get to study ourselves, we learn, or I've learned in the process that I had these values that sounded good. They sounded like what other people wanted me to find and select. But like, as I kept digging into like finding two things, I actually boiled it all down to one. And my core value is freedom of choice, and having that self-agency, having, you know, it shows up in a yoga practice a lot, but a lot of the values can be boiled down. And I found that mine wasn't on the list. So I wanted to share in case other people are in that process, that it might not be on Tom's lists or someone else's lists or whatever worksheet or workbook that we're in, but through self-study, you can kind of boil down to figure out what gets you out of bed in the morning on your worst days, and what is that driving force within. And for me, it was freedom.
Man, Laura, that is a mic drop on there. That's awesome. That is awesome. How is that? I do got to ask one. How has that changed over the last 10 years? Has it been? Is this like just a recent? Has freedom become your major value as of recent, or has it always been kind of this progression in place?
Well, it was like I was struggling. I had like 15 values. I was like, of
Right.
course, like my values are my family, and my values are well-being, and my values are all of these things. But doing like deeper values work and starting to understand, it's not like your gratitude practice, like we can go through it and we can write things down, but when you're like, feel it,
Yes.
like feeling it, maybe speak it, maybe share it, like that embodiment. For me, I figured out that freedom, like to have prosperity, to get to choose, like to have success in my life, it gives me options to be with family, to have the freedom of not, you know, if I get injured and I can't work out, I still have the freedom of choice to say, what can I do, instead of what has stopped, you know, what am I no longer able to do? But to default, to me, that's my spark. And to find that internal spark that might not be on anybody else's list, that is the essence of why you're attracted to those other values, or the source of getting to the other things that you care about. That was my process, at least, as digging and digging. I remember looking and being like, oh yeah, I want to say family, but it wasn't family.
Yeah.
Like I knew it sounded better. I didn't want to be like a horrible person and not include my family and my values when
Right.
they mean a lot to me. But finding that core was part of that exploration for me.
That's great. I love it. One quick question before we move from values, and this is for anybody. Does any of you have a way that you get reminded of your values? Something symbolic, something that just make you, even when times get crazy, it's like, oh, wait a second, this is who I am. There's something that almost anchors me into that reminder. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to share?
I think for me,
Oh. Sorry.
I think family tends to do it.
Yeah.
Like just kind of being around them, and whether or not it's specific values, it's kind of like, this is who I want to show up for. So
Yeah.
whatever those things are, like almost like better get them in order, but also like they also remind you what your values are, and they implicitly tell you them. And you know, they don't, at least in my case, they don't necessarily reduce you down to what would be on a paper. They kind of see you for your full self, and even in the good and the bad, they kind of bring you back to center. So I think that's, you know, always been just a reminder to me of like, all right, you know, and I'm fortunate that I have a great family, so I can kind of use them as my role models. But that's definitely kind of a reminder when I'm with them. But then, you know, fortunately the group chat pops off enough that it's kind of always getting reminded.
Great. Terry, you were saying something? Thanks for sharing that, Dan.
I was just going to say that honestly, I think that I come back to my values when I see people or a person, I guess, out in the world who is displaying kind of the opposite of my values.
Oh,
And
okay.
it kind of makes it kind of makes me think, wow, I'm happy that I have my values, because I see what it looks like and it can look ugly in other people when they, demonstrate, I guess, that maybe they don't have the same values as you,
Yeah, that's awesome.
or
Yeah,
their
seeing
their
that for-
values are a little bit different.
Yeah, being able to say, I don't want that. That is, yeah, very much brings you back to center point. Well, this is awesome. I appreciate you all for sharing on it. They keep, working on those values. They'll stay as a foundational principle. A lot of the things that were talked about tonight, yeah, it's the foundation. So we get really sound where we're at right now. We lean on the from our values to understand that we're at from a physical standpoint, where we're at from a mental standpoint, and then we build. And so tonight we'll jump into this, and we're going to buzz through and get a good conversation going. Actually. Right? Nope. Here we are. Get you out of the way here. All right. Tonight is all about strengthening the body and the mind. All right, the body and the mind. It's one. They feed one another. There is no doubt that when the body gets in motion, the body ignites the mind. A strong body adds to a strong mind. And this entire night is devoted to being able to look at some of the tools, the physical tools that we need to get in line to get our overall health taken care of. And so the goal tonight is to spend a lot of time jumping into that. We'll spend trying to answer two really good questions. How do we create the right system to strengthen our body and mind? And then the second one is what are we consuming to strengthen our overall, how we're strengthening our overall body and mind? Okay, that's kind of where we're gonna start off with. And so let's start with number one, system. Who has an idea of what I mean by system? When I'm talking about what is the system that you're working in, what's the system that you're currently operating in? Because we know that's important to be successful. What does system mean? Anyone want to take a crack?
Would it be your overall, just your approach to things daily, the habits that you have, both the positives and the negatives?
Yeah. Yes, Sonia, very, very, yeah. I mean, that's a big part of it. It's the habits that we're going about. It's our, and we could even, I'll share it here. It's our overall, the system that we define it really simply as is the collection of daily habits and routines that we get that kind of align to get us to our goals. And so when we think about goals, when we think about where we want to go, might not be these big lavish goals. It might not be these crazy out in the future goals. It might just be for happiness in the present moment. But the idea is what is the system that's operating around you that you're functioning in that's going to help you achieve those goals? And so that's where we're going to spend some time tonight sharing what that means. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack a second before I even jump into the morning routine, because I want to kind of paint two scenarios for you, and you could tell me which one you fall into. The first one is this: you wake up in the morning, it's quiet in your house, it's nice and calm. You wake up with a great amount of time that when you do roll out of bed, you slowly make yourself way into the kitchen. You're just going through the motion of just really easing into the day. You go out, you get a little bit of sunlight. It's still quiet. It's relaxed. You sit back. You maybe you drink a cup of coffee. You take time. You slowly but surely kind of move into the day. Maybe you go through some different routines that just kind of get you online, but all you're doing is slowly going into the day. The day starts, and you just kind of move through it effortlessly. Even in traffic, you're just smooth and relaxed, and you're able to deal with it. When the traffic arises, even though you're maybe a little bit more stressed out, you're able to take a few deep breaths, and calm yourself down. The entire day is just full of this. It's full of, you get a little stressed, but not too high. You take a couple breaths and you recover. Nice and easy, never getting too extreme, never getting too low, never getting too high. At night, you get home after a great meal, you sit back, you unwind by just sitting down and maybe journaling or laying things out in a nice, smooth manner. You lay your head down on the pillow, you get a perfect 8+ hours of sleep, and then you wake up the next day to repeat that same beautiful day, right? Show of hands. How many of you all living like that? Yes, yes. The 2 retirees down there in the corner. It's awesome. But here's a more realistic one. It's the chaotic world that we kind of live in, right? You wake up to the alarm. The alarm gets you up out of bed. As soon as you get out of bed, usually you're entering into chaos. Anybody with kids knows that it's loud, and all of a sudden kids are running around 100 miles an hour. You barely get out of your room, and there's already music, or there's talking going. You're in a rush just to get everything together to get out the door because you didn't give yourself enough time. You rush to get yourself dressed. You rush to get the kids' lunch packed or to get your own lunch packed. You hurry out the door. The second you get out there, you get into the car, and then you're bombarded with traffic, and you literally sit there with your hair on fire, getting angry. You try to calm down from that point, but you can't really calm down. You may go down a couple decibels, but you're still kind of razzled up. The entire day, same thing. Our days, no matter how you go about them, they're full of stressors, and the goal is to recover. When you're living this life, though, the stressors just kept getting more and more and more. It's not that there's more of them. It's just that you never come down from them. So you come home from work, you finally get to sit down. You finally get to recover. And the first thing you do at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night is you get a little time to yourself. And who does this? They pick up their phone and then they just start swiping through and start consuming reel upon reel upon reel. Sometimes you might even throw a little bit of the Housewives, or any Housewives fan, I totally get it. But you end up watching a bunch of that kind of TV because that's how you're going to unwind. You eventually bring yourself to rest and you head on into bed to lay down, to sit there and not fall asleep. So you consume more reels. You eventually fall asleep, but only to toss and turn the entire night. And then you wake up a little bit later, a little bit behind the 8 ball because you didn't get a good night's sleep. And then you start that repeated cycle over and over again. How many of you live that? Maybe not that extreme, but how many of you are living that a little bit more than the ideal cruise into the day, good wake up, everything? Go ahead. Yeah, there we are. Yeah. All right. So the idea of this is that the system that you create around yourself is so important. How you treat everything feeds off each other. If you're not getting a good night's sleep, if you can't get a good night's sleep, I guarantee you it isn't so much that you're having a problem with sleeping because of something that happened throughout the day. It's the problem is that when you wake up in the morning, you are underprepared to deal with whatever is going on throughout the day. And so think of it as an athlete. It's, there's a lot of athletes that aren't. Carly's a great example. Carly, imagine never warming up for a soccer game and they just throw at the 70th minute, they go, Carly, you're in, and they drop you in. No warm up, no nothing. Like, it's chaos. You would never be able to handle it. And then what ends up happening is you end up getting in this place where you're trying to play catch up. You're trying to get it. And all you do is just end up hurting yourself. You hurt yourself from a physical standpoint and then also a mental standpoint. And so this idea of what the system is around you is so important. Of how we start the day, how we end the day will dictate how much and how we deal with all the different stressors that are throughout the day. Is that a good picture of creating the what I call the chaotic wheel? So what I want to do is I want to jump into the first part of this. This is the foundation of what I think a great system has to have happen. And that system always starts with the morning routine. All right. On the on the workbook this week, there was a whole bunch of questionnaires that basically asked, like, what is your workout or warm up, your morning routine, and then also an evening routine. Does anybody have a morning routine that they're just really fond of or happy, or they think it really, really helps them? I do want to lean on Nina and Sam over there, since they're over there, sleeping. What time are we waking up these days?
6:30.
See? Oh, all right. Well, that's on. What's the first thing you guys do?
Have coffee.
Okay. And where are you going from there? What kind, if you can, just walk us through some basic steps.
Then we listen to music.
Oh, I love that.
For a short period of time.
And then we leave for the gym about 7:15.
And then gym, and then what time are we in the course?
Well, we have two different things. Nina goes to the gym. I go on my bike. And then I go play golf. Nina goes to yoga and then goes to coffee. So it's different every day.
See? Yeah.
But it's formidable. I mean, we love every minute of it.
Yeah. And how does it make you feel throughout the day then too? Like, it's when you get that good morning routine, what does the day look like for you then?
Fabulous.
Right? God, we're all sitting here just going, that's what our we're gunning for you two.
You know what? And it's something to look forward to. I know we've gone through a lot of stuff, but it's what we have and it's what we look forward to, and it's fabulous. So everybody who's not retired.
That's what you have to look forward to. Exactly.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Well, thanks for sharing, guys. That's awesome. So a couple of things heard out of that. You got up at a good time. Doesn't seem like you're rushed into the day. It seems like you're kind of moving at it. You're getting coffee in. We'll say even some kind of liquid. Listening. So you're listening to music, and then you're also getting movement in now. You're getting the workouts in, maybe a bike, maybe a workout, lifting, or even just golfing. I shouldn't say just golfing. I didn't mean to offend you. But yeah,
please.
Right. My bad. I didn't mean that. But again, that's some foundational stuff. Anybody else anybody else has anything on there that they use for morning routines?
My morning routine.
Well,
oh, go ahead.
I'll be quick. I'd say I have different things that I do. The biggest thing that I think changed that was a noticeable impact was walking into work without headphones. Like, I can very much trick myself into fake productivity where wake up the second I can get an informative podcast in my ears, I'll do it. But I kind of recognize that just actually spurred more anxiety of all these new ideas that I now don't have time to do anything with, or I'm now questioning what I did the day before. So I felt that that walk into work with nothing is actually quite the unlock.
Dan, that is such an incredible point too. It's almost nothing wrong with obviously the consumption of a podcast or doing this is needed, but it's the same as in the warm up or the dynamic warm up of you, former football player. If I brought you into that warm up and then I told you to go out there and do some 30-yard sprints real quick into that warm up, all of a sudden it just causes you more stress. It's not that it isn't needed at some point for you to be optimal at your sport, but the problem is it's not in the right spot. So that's great, unbelievable, recognizing the fact of where it is. Not bad, it's just where it falls in there in the morning. It weighs on you. It doesn't really make the whole thing flow nice. Sonia, I think you were saying something?
I was just going to say that I have an alarm clock named Ginger. We adopted a Cocker Spaniel a year ago, and she body slams my side of the bed lately at 5:30. But I usually, my husband leaves at 6, and so I like to get up that early, somewhere between 5:30 and 6. I come downstairs, immediately start fixing her breakfast because that's what Her Majesty is demanding at that point. And then on the advice of one of my daughters, I've been drinking a glass of water to hydrate before I have my coffee.
Mhm.
And then I've been opening the back door and listening to the sounds of the birds as everything's coming, alive and all the first thing in the morning as I drink my coffee. So that's very relaxing to listen to the morning sounds, and then trying to prepare my day with thoughts of having some sort of purpose that I want to do that day.
And Sonia, there's so many good ones in there. Has this been something you've been doing forever, or is this kind of new?
Well, I've always had dogs, and so but she's just she's younger. I had the ones we've had recently were seniors, and they slept a lot longer, but she's kind of energized. But no, that's what I like to do in the mornings, though, is just to kind of get myself together and just think about have thoughts of the day, and about my family, and then I get ready, and most days I've been taking Ginger for a walk, and we walk a few miles, and I really enjoy that as well.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So those morning routines are really crucial, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. Everybody's going to be individual. Everybody's going to have their own ways of going about doing it. It might be Ginger. It might be just pure quietness. There's a lot of different things that are going on in those routines. But what I would say, some of this is my own personal one, and it's backed by a lot of research and a lot of trial and error as well. But I lean on these 4 areas that I try to get in every day, and every day they may be a little bit different, but sunlight, hydrate, read, and then move. And why they're so important. The sunlight is so there's a ton of things that are happening from sunlight. But when you get out and you expose yourself to sunlight, especially early in the morning, it's a way that it almost resets the circadian rhythm. So it keeps the body in balance. So believe it or not, the way when you wake up in the morning and then you expose yourself to sunlight bright and early, it automatically resets the overall internal clock. That's what our circadian rhythm is that internal clock. And so by being able to get up there in the morning, it actually helps to dictate what the entire day is going to be like on there. The other thing that I love to have it is just our overall the serotonin that it promotes. There's a lot of things that we could do in our life that will trigger almost hormonal responses and a lot of neurotransmitters. And by getting out early in the morning, getting the sun, serotonin comes flushing through the system. And it literally brings an overall joy, a happiness into your body. So just by being able to get between literally as little as 10 to 15 seconds of sunlight or bright light, especially in the wintertime, it turns our overall process of how we're starting the day. So simple things like that. The next one is going to be hydrate. Hydrate's the old trick for me is not necessarily just coffee. It is water, and it's water with Himalayan sea salt. And the idea is that, does anybody do Himalayan sea salt? Show hands. Dan, you love it? Anybody? Yep. Tara, I see you down there. Jim, I didn't know that. You love it?
Well, I used to do those Noon tablets.
Yeah.
Gotten away from those, and I started using the fine sea salt.
Yeah.
A little bit in the water.
Yeah, it's amazing to see what it does for overall cognitive function, especially early in the morning. The easy thing to think of is when you go through a sleep pattern, you're literally in a fasting state. You're going for a long amount of time where you're not eating or drinking. And so by being able to wake up and at least get that hydration in, and then you put a little bit of salt in there, it balances out the electrolytes. Trisha, last time, this is her round 2 of Changemaker, she had sent me the Element, which is fantastic supplement. Element is literally a sodium supplement, and it is unbelievable what it tastes like, but then the overall impact it has, especially that early morning hours, because it really does kickstart everything. From there, I like to read. Music's another great one. So Nina and Sam, I love that idea. It's just putting, it's reading, I don't have my book here right now, but it's reading something that spurs curiosity, but nothing that you have to act on. So not the level of, I need to go and implement anything. It's just, it brings that good feeling out there. You're not only educating yourself, but you're just thinking positive thoughts. You're reading stuff, not the news, even though you could be on whatever side you want to of the political world. But when you're in that friction, we try to stay away from that early in the morning. And then you read something that keeps you, that'll wake you up and then also get the mind going. And then the last one is movement. So as we said, if it's golfing, if it's literally yoga, I am telling you this as a middle-aged guy, 40 years old now. Dan, this is what you have to look forward to, just so you know. And Jim, you back me up. Al, you back me up on this, right? The overall simplicity of just getting up in the morning, actually, Al, I need to yell at you for this because you need to do more of it, of just stretching, like just getting up in the morning and go through a basic level of stretching is unreal how it resets the entire body. When we sleep, just think of this, when we sleep, if you could put a camera on you, you're literally tossing and turning, you're all over the place. You're contorted in different positions. And so when you're doing this for a long period of time, and so by getting up in the morning and going through some basic stretch patterns, it's this almost reset. It gets the entire body physically moving. And especially if you're getting up to exercise, that basic level of stretch is huge. But on great days, it's great to be able to get up there and at least get a sweat going, because movement starts the entire mind. It starts the entire brain to keep kicking in our overall mindset. Anybody got anything to add on that? Any other ideas? These are just my own. Laura, I'm almost interested to know if you have any go-tos, because I know we've talked about it a lot, but anybody want to share anything that we could throw in there that's worked for you all?
Tom, I have so many. I was laughing. I was like, well, I have like a 4-hour option of a morning routine and like a 30-minute option and everything in between.
Yeah.
Adding to those, I think grounding is really beneficial if you can like stack your morning routine. So like I like to get morning sunlight and I'll sit in the hot tub.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll meditate in the hot tub while I'm getting sunlight. And
Can you explain grounding a bit for people that might not know?
Yeah, so grounding is, I mean, it's what it sounds like. You're just putting it, it's so simple. So much of our modern society is getting back to the simplicity. And we hear these things, that forest bathing is like just being outside, or grounding. It's putting your feet on the earth. So just as you would take electricity into your house, you would ground that electric current. We are electric currents. We have energy moving through us, and we are on concrete. We're in tennis shoes. We are disconnected from actually touching the earth. And as electric beings, we too need to ground. So they have things like grounding mats, but if you've noticed how you feel, if you like go to the beach after a nice long vacation, a lot of that has to do with being barefoot in the sand and physically connecting back with this earth. So it's putting your feet on the grass or in the sand, or digging your hands in the dirt if you garden. But it's grounding your physical being. Does that help?
If any of you are listening to that going, that sounds crazy, just so you know, I was that person too. I was sitting there and I'm like, what? Like, how does this lock you in? And of course, after this accident, you're really stuck to pavement. I mean, you really have trouble getting anywhere because of just the fact you're on wheels. And I remember it. I remember the first time of getting out there and putting my feet in grass and not even have a huge sensation of it, but the overall something just getting turned on, and then putting my hand down in dirt and just being able to move it in that dirt. There is something to it, and research backs this up too. It's not just thought. Like there is definitely stuff that backs this idea of forest bathing or grounding. So these are all simple things that again, we've tried to use technology and go through these crazy hoops to put into our lives. But these simple things like sunlight, like being able to take a walk, by being able to spend time in nature, they have a ripple effect of positivity that go in throughout the day more than anything. And we have a lot of mountain bikers on this call. I mean, you all know what it is. You get in the woods and you're on a trail. I mean, it feels like complete freedom, and you just feel this energy from the woods, which, like, it's woods, it's trees. Like, why does that have more energy than being in a city? And the reality is like, it's just something about that it's hard to quantify, it's hard to see, but it is there, and it's very, very real. Anybody else before we go? Thanks for sharing that, Laura. Okay, we're gonna buzz through the back half of this talk. What I want to do is real quick, the evening routine. This is simple stuff, all right? Before you go to bed, Dan talked about this early on, and when we first started, just being able to disconnect from your screen. Grace, you're the youngest one on our crew, out of this crew here. I gotta tell you, the power of being able to disconnect even 30 minutes before you're gonna get your eyes closed, huge as far as what it does for overall ability to just really get a good night's sleep. To be able to disengage from screens at least 30 minutes, optimal is an hour, huge positive benefit. Mindful breathing is doing that. It's gratitude breathing. It's taking a big breath in, holding on to that breath, and then being able to sit in that moment and just really feel what that gratitude's all about. And then I always do these 3 different things. I do one thing where I try to pick at least one positive deal out of the day. And I write this down. I have my little note deal on my phone. But I do one thing where I just pull one positive thing out, one thing that I'm grateful for, and then one thing that I think I got at least 1% better at. And that 1% better, that's very subjective, but it's up to me. But even if I consistently remember to do these things, hey, I think I've got 1% better. So the idea of being able to write it down is really important. And then one of the most powerful things that they show time and time again, negativity, any negative thought before you're going to bed, if you could take that thought and you could take it and then write it down on paper, you literally take it from your brain and then you give it a place, and that place is out of your body. So by being able to just write the simple couple things down that you're dealing with, it's almost like it disassociates. It disassociates from your mind, and it takes it out and puts it onto the paper itself. So a few things that are really, really powerful to do that all take a matter of 10 to 15 minutes. And if you get yourself into those routines, again, you control the morning thought, you control the evening thought, and the 50 to 60 spiraling thoughts that are all throughout the day, you have a better chance of having a much more positive one. These last few minutes, we're going to deal with consumption, all right? Anybody know what I mean by consumption?
Like information diet.
Boom, love that. How about even more than that?
I would say just anything that you're taking in.
Anything, yeah. Yeah, so yep, exactly right. So from what we're eating, what we're drinking, what we're consuming from information, what's coming through that phone, like what does that look like? I mean, even when you consume sleep, how many hours of sleep are you getting in? All of these pay dividends on how that whole entire system is working. So what we consume is huge in far as how we're going to have ourselves, our body and mind lock in. Real quick, Nutrition 101, all right? We go into some more in-depth stuff with some other courses, but this one for itself is Nutrition 101. Sugar is really, really bad. I mean, so many people, there's been so many studies that have been done on what the byproduct of sugar has on your overall health. And time again, it is at the top level. When you're doing a high sugar diet, the overall energy up and down and the instability that is being created in your body is incredibly bad for making sure that your overall mindset is fairly equal. I go by an easy thing. 3 pieces of fruit, 3 vegetables a day. Can you get 3 pieces of fruit and 3 vegetables in a day? By doing this, you're at a 95% above 95% of the general population as far as how they're consuming it. one of the big things is don't keep high sugar, high fat food in the home itself, because the reality is when it's there, you're going to eat it. And especially when you get hungry or you get cravings, you're all guilty as me. I know it, that if it's there, there is nothing like having a good old brownie that's just sitting there smiling at you. And remember this is like that old chip commercial. You can't just eat one. The second you sit there and say, I'm going to have one, how many of you had the old Doritos that you're like, I'll just have one and that'll be it. And before you know it, your fingers are orange. You're halfway through the bag because you can never just eat one of it. So don't start. Don't start, and you have a better chance of not eating any. Hydrate, drink water. General rule of thumb for me is that you should be peeing almost every 2 hours. It's this idea that we're trying to filter that system. The more water we put in our system, the health benefits are outrageously beneficial, from overall better skin to just overall organ, we'll call it organ enhancement. It's necessity. This is another big bullet point that I always try to make sure I emphasize, is that thirst gets confused as hunger. When the body wants something, many times that we think we're hungry, but the truth is, if we go and just drink water, if we fill ourselves with that water, which calorically doesn't have anything, it literally will be, it'll crave those food hungers. Prepare and plan. If you prepare and plan, I guarantee you will be more adept to just having success with this. So getting yourself a water bottle, take advantage of different food services, the HelloFresh, the Fresh Fork. If you could do it, I know financially they're pretty steep. If you could do it, or even food prep, as far as on a Sunday, go to the grocery store and prepare some of your stuff, you'll have a better chance of eating a healthier diet. Myself, I guarantee you, if Krista's working late and I'm coming home, I have one go-to meal. Krista, what is the go-to meal? Here it is. I know how to cook one thing. Oh, you can't? I don't know. She can't figure it. That's all right. I'll tell you. It's a
salsa chicken.
That's exactly right. I make one meal, salsa chicken in the pressure cooker, and that's it. Is it a bad meal? No, it's not a bad meal. But if it's up to me, because I can't cook, I need to prepare it with like a HelloFresh, or give me an assortment to be able to get those right nutrients in. All right. If you prepare, you will have a better strategy to be successful with it. And then again, meal plan and prep. All right. 101 of nutrition. We're going to move this on, and we're going to get into exercise. Exercise is just movement. Don't overthink it. You don't even need to have a big plan, but getting out and being able to walk around your development after a meal, oh my God, the ripple effect it has later on, huge. Consistency, though, is the key. All of this is all about consistency. Waking up and getting into a good morning routine, the consistency is the major part that pays dividends. Going for a walk after a meal, that consistency will pay the most return by just getting out there and doing it all the time, because it builds everything into an overall habit. And once you get into those good habits, man, it's unreal how it changes your entire landscape from a physical and mental standpoint. All these general ideas are just real basic, as far as 30 minutes, moderate exercise, getting out, so this idea here is one that a couple of friends that I have that are big, they're at a desk a lot. And so what they do is they set a half hour, every half hour, their alarm goes off. And all that is they get up and they stand. By standing, it transfers their entire body to an upright position. It's almost a natural way to stretch. They bring their shoulders back, they bring their chin in, and then they go for a 3-minute little walk around the office. Sometimes it's only a 30-second walk. But by doing this, all it does is create that motion and keeps the brain going. Resistance training, they do the same kind of deal. When the alarm goes off, they drop down and they'll do push-ups. They'll sit there and do some different body weight squats. All of you on this call are able to do this. All of you on this call, if you set yourself for every 30 minutes that you're going to go for a 1 to 3 minute walk and then do a couple different push-ups, unbelievable what it does for overall strength, but even just different ranges of motion that you're going to go through. And I promise you a huge return on your health. All right. I will spend about the next 5 minutes. We'll unfortunately, we're just going to go over a little bit, but it's on sleep. All right. Because if I could tell you one thing, this is the most important deal that we got to lean on. All right. Out of all the different things that we consume, how many hours of sleep are we getting in? And so, what is the optimal amount of sleep for adults? Anybody? What are you saying down there, Tanya? 9? Is that what I see? 9. I like that. We got 1 9. Oh, we got 1 7 over here with Ann. Dan going 8. 7 9 8. We got what, 4 6. What? Taro, you got 4 6 7 5 2 7. Yes. Okay. We got them in there. All right. Optimal for adults between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. All right. 7 on the low end. 9 is kind of 7 to 8, 9 is that optimal range. Question for you all. Show of hands. How many of you are getting 8+ hours of sleep? Not one. Did my screen freeze? I think it did. Yeah.
Two people are raising
Yes.
their
Oh,
hand.
wait, okay, here we go. 2, there we go. My screen froze. All right, so we got Jen and Trisha. All right. Oh, Grace. Grace, nice job. All right. What about where are we at? 7 hours of sleep. We got another. We got 3 more. 6. Oh, great. Yeah. Hey, Carly, you're unsure on stuff. You're 6?
All right, can I just say one thing real quick?
You sure can.
So I did the sleep monitor thing pretty closely. So if you think you're getting 9, you're only getting 8. So you might want to recalculate.
Yep. And what was the sleep monitoring you did? What was?
I've done so many things, Tom. But if you think you're doing it, take an hour off. Or if you think
Yeah.
you're going to go on a 5-hour ride, it's more like a 6 or a 7-hour ride.
Yeah.
Or if you think you're going to get to work in an hour, it's more like an hour and a half. Just add time
Err
to
on the
life.
side of, yeah. That's a great rule of thumb all the way around, Tanya. I like that. But Tanya, she does bring up a great point with it. It's this idea that when you go to bed and you think you blocked out 8 or 7 or 8 hours, when you actually look at things like a Whoop band, which basically these are recording how you sleep, how many hours you're actually getting in. Are you in REM sleep? Are you in good quality sleep? You almost think the product's wrong. You almost think your iWatch is wrong when it starts giving you feedback. But I promise you it's not. Because what happens is when we lay down for that duration, we don't just exactly drop into sleep and quality sleep to be able to get that return. So when we're looking at this, make sure you err on the side. If you want to get 7 in, you better be in bed for at least an hour and a half around that. So we're looking at that 8.5 mark. And if you get that in, you'll at least have a good chance of hitting those bare numbers. But wait, we left up at 6 hours. Who is only getting 5 hours here? No one? Okay, we're also, oh my God, I know you are. I was waiting for you to get, yeah. Golly, we gotta get you. We'll get you soon enough. So again, getting that sleep in is really, really optimal for overall health. Like I said, 7 to 9 hours is the optimal range, and that's where we want to spend some time, all right? So the funny thing is 1 in 3 adults don't get that 7 hours of sleep. It's just almost 33% of the population is not getting at least 7 hours of sleep. And so then what does this mean, right? Some of the effects of being sleep deprived. So if we don't get the recommended 7+ hours of sleep, so we don't get that in, driving, right? Driving after being awake for 18 hours, which gives you roughly that 7, it's like that 6-hour mark, is equivalent to a blood alcohol content of 0.05. And so, I always have people that are like, well, 0.05, that doesn't seem that bad. That's barely even drinking. And I can't argue that point. But my point would be is that when we're trying to do things in our lives, when we're trying to live optimally and live out this life to maximize it, you're doing it from an impaired state. You're doing it from a place where, because you're not getting enough sleep in, you're not recovering. You're not able to optimize your overall demeanor, your overall ability in this world because you're doing it. And the only thing that's holding you back is your overall sleep quality itself. All right. Being awake for roughly 24 hours is roughly equivalent to a blood alcohol content of 0.10, which is legal or illegal. And so by being up for that time, which is pretty extensive if you're up past 24, you should not be driving. But it has a huge effect on you. So these are some with mental health. Mental health is a scary, it can be a very scary place. The risk of depression is increased by 40% when a person regularly gets 6+ hours of sleep. There's a lot of studies that are showing, does depression cause the lack of sleep? Does the lack of sleep lead to depression? They just feed off of one another. But 75% of adults who suffer depression suffer some kind of insomnia. So the challenge with all of it is making sure that we're continually pushing to do the right things. The other one here is weight gain. Believe it or not, by being up longer, you have a much higher chance of gaining weight. It physically will make you gain or average about 300 to 500 more calories per day just by being able to not have that overall sleep in there. What does that add to? That adds to overall body mass. So people that are heavily sleep deprived will struggle with kind of keeping balance and weight. All of these things are really the big reaper of bad health. And so if we have bad health, then we have a lot of trouble with keeping the right mindset in there. Now, this is a thing that I always like to tell people. I had this great mentor of mine one time. The mentor, he sat me down and he's like, listen, you probably have had a mentor like this. He said, if you want to really achieve in life, you want to do the biggest and best things you can, I'm going to give you a book. And he turns and he hands me this book. And this book is Go the F to Sleep. It's a real book. And believe it or not, this book has, it's first of all, a great bedtime story book too. Your kids will absolutely love it. But the truth is, this book itself breaks down all of the benefits of sleep and how to get to sleep on there. And the story to all of it is sleep is a foundational. It's an area that we cannot do without. We need it, so we got to emphasize it and make sure that we put it into our overall body. In your workbook, you will have a bunch of different ways to really help out and aid with sleep stuff. So I encourage you to go through there and kind of pull out some different things that will help you get a good night's sleep. But this, I'm going to start wrapping this up. This stuff is going to be stuff that'll be sent out to you, all the positives that are associated around sleep and what it does for you, especially from being an athlete. A lot of you on this call I know are very athletic as far as what your quest is for optimal performance. Sleep is the #1 way. When we're talking about anything at work as far as overall recovery and regeneration, we have a budget to buy anything in the world, but it always comes back to the fact that if we're not sleeping, it basically cancels out all of the other stuff. So getting a good night's sleep, figuring out how to sleep, sleeping with a CPAP. I don't know if anybody's on this, but a few years ago, quick story, we went to Whistler, and Krista and I went there for a half Ironman, and all these athletic people are there. So we're all there, and all these athletic people are sitting there, and all of a sudden they start talking about their CPAPs when they're getting on the plane. These are like late 20s, mid 30s, maybe 40s in there. I was one of the older people, and they're all talking about carrying on their CPAPs. And I sat back going, man, you guys, I would never think, like, you're all CPAP users. And they said, oh, it's the thing that'll change your life. It'll literally change your life. If you go and if you have any kind of sleep apnea, you will get a much better sleep. So why not jump into that bandwagon? And I sure as heck went and did it. And it's unreal. When you put that mask over your face and it starts blowing this air, jamming it in your mouth, the sleep you get from it, 10x better than anything I've ever done. If you sleep with somebody else in your bed, doesn't make them real excited. But the mask itself is unbelievable what it does for your overall ability to sleep. So Dan, Jim, Al, all of you guys, I know women seem to be able to deal with this better. Us guys are like, no, I'm not wearing a CPAP. I'm telling you, it's like, it's game changers. So we'll wrap this up with all the different benefits. And then also, we want to do a quick little box breathing to kind of bring this night to an end. All we're going to do is we're going to do this basic. This is what I do before I go to bed. And this is what we're going to do tonight, this last minute here. I'm going to do a fork. This is going to be a fork. I want you to sit up nice and tall. If you're driving, obviously, don't do this, or at least be very careful. Maybe don't do this. But all I want you to do is just sit up nice and tall. Let the shoulders relax. And what we're going to do is we're going to breathe in a 4 count. We're going to hold it for 4. And then we're going to breathe out in a 4 count. And we're going to go through that just through 3 cycles. And 3 cycles, just I want you to feel when the air is coming out, I want you to let your shoulders drop and just feel your butt bones sink into the chair that you sit in. And we'll bring ourselves to a little bit of a rest. All right, you all ready? Here we go. Nice and smooth. You can even close your eyes. And all we're going to do is we're going to breath in through the nose, and we're going to come in a 4, 3, 2, big breath, 1. Hold this breath now. Hold it for 4 count. 4, 3, 2, 1. Nice and slow on the way out. Let's go in about a 6 count on the way out. 6, 5, 4. Let yourself drop. The shoulders are dropping. 3, 2, 1. Nice and smooth coming in again. We're going to come in a 4, 3, 2. Fill your lungs up nice and tall. 1. Hold that breath for 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're going to let this one out in a 6 count in. 6, 5. Feel your shoulders drop. 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to go one more time. Breath in 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it there. Hold it there. Hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1. And nice and smooth. 6, 5. Letting the shoulders drop. 4. Butt bones go into it. 3, 2, 1. Relax. Right? It automatically lowers you when you're going to bed, just by being able to simply do that. You could do different counts. It could be a 4, 5, 6. It could be a 4, 7, 8, whatever you want as far as the count. It's not real important, but it's just trying to breathe that in, get the lungs full, and then let yourself pull out in a nice, slow exhale. Quick little wrap up here. We started this off with a lot of different recaps from the night before. I love to hear all of the different takeaways that were happening on there. We did spend some time with values and how important values are. I would encourage you to have, if it's a family member that makes you realize your values, if it's some kind of physical thing, wedding ring or something that grounds your values, definitely keep practicing that and use that to anchor those values and make sure it reminds you of them. The idea of tonight is giving ourselves the space to start the day with a controlled thought, and then to end the day with a controlled thought. 50 to 60,000 thoughts are tough to manage, but if we can manage just 2 of them, 2 ends, it'll help fill in that middle area, and it'll bring all of it together. And then using just basic knowledge of eating things in a high nutrition packet, such as whole foods, drinking water, putting these little things together, getting enough sleep in, and making sure the body is as optimal as possible will allow you to continue to keep feeding that mind. This tonight is one of my favorite because I love the physical side of it. And I cannot tell you how impactful it is by just adding simple things like vegetables into a diet, or being aware of how much you're hydrating, or just even starting that morning routine. All right. Big takeaways tonight, or the big things that we're going to have as action items, are just continually giving yourself space in the morning. It could be 1 minute, it could be up to 10 minutes, whatever you want to do, but try to start the day with gratitude. Start ease into the day. If you're one that is smashed up against the clock and you've got all these things going on, just back the time off just a little bit, that you give yourself a little bit of space to be able to ease into it. And then from there, try a bunch of different things out to see what really works for you. And then next week, we'll meet back with more mindset talk, and then a great topic that I really, really love called Flux Vita, which is all about how we're seeing the world and using it in a flowing motion. I thank you all for being here tonight. Extremely grateful to have you all, and look forward to next week. I will send out all this stuff tomorrow. If anybody is having trouble getting it, just individually send me a message and I'll make sure you get it.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Tom.
Thank you all. Have a
See
great
you,
night.
everybody.
Thank
See you
you.
all.
Thank you. Good night.
See ya. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Chair Tricia Grace.
So, what was that, Sonia?
I just said good night to my daughters and my granddaughter.
Oh, that's wonderful. Awesome.
Have a good night, Tom.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Night, guys. Oh my goodness, I miss you both so much.
We miss you.
You.
God. How have you been, Laura?
I've been good, busy but good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys doing well?
Doing really well. Yeah. It's rock and roll.
I saw you at Vibe. I really miss that place.
It misses you. I'm like, Tom, one of the soccer players came in. I'm like, just having the athletes that still know you. I'm like, do you know Tom and Krista? Like, let's just talk about how much I miss them. So
Oh,
yeah,
We need to
we're
move back.
still,
We need to move back.
dude. I mean, do you love it where you are though?
Yeah, it's different. I mean, it's definitely pushing us. No, Krista says no.
Okay,
I
saw
said
your
let's
post,
give it a
Krista, and
year.
I'm like, do you
I
want to come back? Oh my God, tell me everything.
I don't know. It's weird, Laura. Like I feel like Indiana was our home. Even though we grew up here, like that's where we spent our most pivotal moments of life.
Yeah, it is true.
Oh, what a pull.
But I mean, like it's awesome being close to home. I do love that. But there's so many things there that I just really miss. Like being 45 minutes to an airport. Like that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
Well,
yeah.
Bloomington will, I'm like, are you giving me a little, I'll take a seed of hope. I'll take it. I'm like, I know you guys got some good stuff going, but man, if we'll open arm welcome you back.
Yeah, it was funny. We were talking to your sister earlier today about the house because we still haven't sold the house, and so she has a buyer for it. So it kind of got everything real. It's like, oh man, if we sell, it's not that if we sell the house, you couldn't move back there, but it does make it a lot easier if we already still have a house. But
Yeah.
so
Well, I know somebody who can build you a house if you ever need a house in Bloomington.
that's true. You all have some connections.
Not a deal breaker.
Yeah.
That is true.
I miss you both. I'm so
Miss
happy to see
you.
you. And yeah, well, I just miss you both. I'm happy
Tell
to be
Nick and
seeing you
Sam we
once a
said hello.